Welcome to the King's Report for Wednesday, May 16th, 2018, the 9th year of Chungi, 4th month and 2nd day. We're in the 4th month now. Time's moving along. Yeah, 4th month, 2nd day by the heavenly calendar. Tim Elder and Greg Knoll sitting in for the 2nd king of Chungi, Hyung Moon. Let's go directly to the weather. Wow, it was a hot day yesterday, wasn't it?
Oh, it's stifling.
It got up to 88 degrees at the Cheongguk Palace yesterday, 88 degrees. And I spent... of course, then we got the storm that came through that cooled things down. But the hot part of the day I spent on the parking lot.
Baking.
And yes, baking. And I didn't put enough sunblock on. I was worried about my nose, which I think I covered
Did pretty good, yeah.
pretty well. But then I forgot about this part. And also the back of my neck, I got pretty badly sunburned. But I'm okay. So anyway, I got up to 88 degrees yesterday. It's summertime. Today, we're looking towards a high of 63. So a big difference, a 25-degree drop in the daytime high. That was quite it was quite a front. That was a real. We were there in the parking lot. All of a sudden, there was this big gust of wind. Whoosh! It just blew sand and dust in our eyes, and we ran for cover, And then, of course, it started raining, and then first it was just a few sprinkles, and then coming down. Fortunately, we didn't have hail. Some areas had hail, golf ball size hail. Hail is something that I have never really experienced too much of. And I hope I don't have to experience. Some people are telling me about sometimes it can get to grapefruit size. It comes through the roof of the house. Destroy cars, and it really do a lot of damage. 3 people, I believe, died yesterday in northeast U.S., but fortunately in this area, I don't think there were any deaths in this area, but I think mainly in New York, I think there were some deaths, which is too bad. But in this area, it was fallen trees, power lines down, and so some areas are without power.
Yeah, our area is without power right now.
Your area is without power. Here at the palace, I checked, and everything is okay at the palace. And here also at the church, everything is okay, except our internet connection is a little bit shaky this morning. So during the Korean service early this morning, we had trouble getting on in the first place, then we're offline during the service. So we don't know what's going to happen today, all right? So please bear with us if we suddenly go offline. Let's go to our Rima for today. For the Bible Rima, I'm in 1 Corinthians 12:9. To another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, the gifts of healing by the same Spirit. Faith is a gift of the Spirit. This is one of the things that I've come to realize here since coming. That, you wonder why, among all the people that Father gathered during his time on earth, why only a remnant can see that the Han Mother has gone completely
off the track, berserk, whatever you want to call it. I mean, obviously, the Family Federation today, I would say, is accurately described as an offshoot of Korean shamanism. I would say it's no longer based on Christianity, and the king has said that in the spirit world, you've got Christianity, and then I forget which is next, but I think Confucianism, Buddhism, maybe I got those mixed up. Then the 4th one is Islam, and then below that is Family Federation. So Islam and then Family Federation. Because Family Federation knew the truth, had the truth, 50 years or more. Yeah, 50 years. They attended the Messiah, and Jesus' disciples only had less than 3 years actually. We often say 3 years, but it's probably more like maybe 18 months. Anyway, somewhere between 18 and 36 months. And yet they were able to, and they repented, especially Peter and others repented and evangelized, spent their life evangelizing, and met the resurrected Jesus and evangelized. Even after that short time, but the Family Federation had the Messiah for 50 years, yet deceived him and turned against him. And so it's a pretty bad situation for them. But anyway, so the gift of the Spirit. So we have to be grateful to God for this faith that we are given. But also, what about people who don't have that gift? Are they doomed? No, I don't think so. I think there are people who understand the truth just by the brain alone, not really just by logic, I guess you can say. Yeah. And sometimes it's difficult for them. For example, some of them I know, many of them are doing well, but some of them get hung up on something like the rod of iron. There are some people who are still hung up on the rod of iron. Some people in our community here in Northeast Pennsylvania are hung up on the rod of iron. And so they're trying to understand this logically, and I can see this happening, and I'm sure they'll come along, but it takes time. It takes time. So it's not just by faith that we're able to follow, but it's sometimes just by logical understanding, and that's good too. And then, and I'm grateful to God that He has given me the gift of faith. But that faith may have come up against a limitation sometime. Might come up against a wall at some point. So then I guess when that happens, I will pray. I will pray for understanding and discernment.
Yeah, I think every day, repentance and prayer are important for maintaining a life of faith.
Yes.
And it certainly has, the beautiful thing about faith is that it goes beyond intellect, and it gives you the power to continue even when things are not totally clear on the intellectual level. But Jesus said you need to be like a child in a way.
Yes.
You need to have the innocence of a child and faith in their father, faith in their parents to carry on. And sometimes that's what's required in the area of faith. And I was thinking a lot, the king has been very buoyant the last few days since coming back from the NRA convention. And, you're talking about Family Federation, and you can really see that Father really sacrificed his foundation for the sake of the Second Amendment Christians that are now rising up. And, I really feel that Father and the second king are just really pleased with this group of people that are real Christian warriors. They're not fake Christians. They're Christians that really will give their life for their fellow man. And they may not talk about God a lot. They may not, wear their religion on their sleeve, but it's really in their heart. And the king really recognizes this kind of faith, this level of love and faith that they have. That is really genuine, and I think the king is, he was really fully immersed and exposed to this community at the NRA convention, and as a result, is very happy. He's like, wow, these are the people that are really going to build God's kingdom. It's not the Andy Wilsons of the world. It's really, it's going to be the people that are willing to put their life on the line.
Let's not mention names that need not be mentioned.
Willing to put their life on the line, and that's what's needed right now.
Okay.
People, ready to do that.
Yes, I'm not sure how buoyant he's going to be this morning, but anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later. In the Cheonseongyung Rima is for the tech team 1725. If you can bring that up quickly. While they're bringing it up, anything else that you want to say? Okay. Yeah. There is the NRA convention, but not everything goes our way yet. We'll get into that just a little bit later. Are we there on 1725? Okay. This is the Root of the Universe, Chapter 2, Section 3. The oneness of God and humankind and the perfection of the ideal of love. The oneness of God and humankind is a concept that's in the Family Pledge in verse number 8, where we pray for the oneness of God and humankind in love. And I realize now that this is this is actually something that's very, very deep that we don't think about very much. But Jesus came and he taught that God is our Father. And he really emphasized this aspect, that God is our Father. Then Father took this one step further to say that God is he's omniscient and omnipotent, but he's vulnerable because he needs human beings, that he cannot experience joy and love without human beings. And so he teaches us in OSDP that God created because he had to create. It was not something that, he didn't have anything better to do, and so he thought, well, just sort of randomly just did something out of boredom or something like that. No, he created because he had to create. Because although his essence is love, he cannot experience love without the universe and human beings who are at the pinnacle of that universe. Mm-hmm. And this is actually quite a revolutionary idea, just as revolutionary as Jesus' idea was that God is our Father, that we relate to him as Father and, at that time, adopted children, as Paul says in Romans 8:15. But now Father, with this idea of the unity of God and humankind in love, that God needs us, not just that we need him, but he needs us. Now, I remember listening to Father speaking in Belvedere, I guess, in the 70s, where Father would talk about how much he needed us, that he could not do this alone, and I need you, and everything like that. And that seemed like, but not just Father as the Messiah, but also God himself needs human beings, not just for the restoration either, but even in the ideal world, ideal situation, God needs human beings, that he is vulnerable, that he is a vulnerable God. Yeah. This is because a God of love, if a God is a God of love, then yeah, he is a vulnerable God. Anyway, this is what the passage that we have today. So where's the origin of love of the universe? It is God. The question here is how to put in logical order the idea of where God's love will settle. For God to become the harmonious being whose dual characteristics are separately represented in the form of Adam and Eve created by him, what should the harmonious being center upon? It should center upon love and be in the masculine position. Masculine position of subject in relation to all.
There you go.
Centered on what? Centered on love. You must know this. Then what would God be like? Adam and Eve are the subjects with dual characteristics, and so their bodies are external and their minds are internal. Therefore, God desires to reside in their minds. If that is the case when Adam's and Eve's bodies, as well as their minds, unite, would or would not that which is at the bottom of their bodies unite too? I think it means lower part. What would that be? Would God unite with them or not? Where would he unite with them? Since he created the organs for love, where would he come to unite with human beings? Where would that place be? It would be the place of love. It says here bottom, but let me see here. Where is that? I'm looking for the word bottom here. That's a strange word, isn't it? Anyway, I can't find it right quickly. It's in the first sentence of the last paragraph. 몸이 하나가 되고 마음과 하나가 되고 그렇게 되면 마음의 밑장일 수 있는 것이 마음의 밑장. In the bottom of their mistranslation. Bottom of their bodies. Here it says bottom of the mind. Correction. 마음의 밑창에 있는 것이 하나 되겠어요, 안 되겠어요? Okay, complete mistranslation, right? It should be mind, not body, here in the English. So let me reread that. If that is the case, when Adam's and Eve's bodies, as well as their minds, unite, would or would not that which is at the bottom of their minds unite too? That's what it says here.
bottom of their minds, not bodies. 마음의 밑창. Okay? All right, so yeah, whoever translated that got that wrong. All right, so God unites with human beings centered on love. That is so essential, and it's a revolutionary concept because it makes God a vulnerable God.
Yeah, I think that is one of the most profound revelations that Father brings, because it's sometimes hard, isn't it? Because we see ourselves, we see the magnificence of God, we see our fall, a lot of times our fallen state, and it's hard to bridge that gap God really needs me in a relationship.
And traditionally, much of Christian theology has been that, that human beings can never approach God.
Right.
Because He is so great.
Yeah.
And all that is true. But in His greatness, He created us to be His partner. And elsewhere in the Cheonseongyong, this kind of really did blow my mind one time, where it says, the Father says that you cannot have unity of heart, complete unity of heart in a vertical relationship. So He created us to be in a kind of in terms of value, in a kind of horizontal relationship. In the direct dominion, obviously, yeah. But He is still great, and He all powerful, and we cannot comprehend Him in our mind, and all that is true. But in that greatness, He created us to be His partners in love, partners in love.
And Father talked about the parent-child relationship as being central and core, and then I can begin to understand, because when you think about your own children, there's this real profound intimacy that you want to have with your own bloodline, your own children.
Yes.
And no matter how great a parent is, they want to have that intimacy with their children, even their deviant children. Right? And the prodigal son story in the Bible, there's this desire for closeness if there's repentance.
Yes.
So it's an amazing thing.
Yes, it is. Yes. All right, let's go to the news today. And yesterday was primary day. And for those who are listening from overseas, I want to explain a little bit about the system we have here in the United States. That different states have their primary elections on different days. And this year in November, we have the midterm election, and so Republican Party and Democratic Party are choosing the candidates who will run for office in the midterm election in November. And yesterday, both parties had their primary elections in the same location at the same time, which is kind of not the way it's often done in other countries. But basically, there were two completely separate elections taking place in the same place. Like, I went in there yesterday to vote, and I'm a registered Republican. So, and when they checked me on the list, they saw that, and so they gave me a little red, like a gambling chip, kind of like and it was a red chip, all right, and it had the letter R in the middle. Other people were getting blue chips with D in the middle, okay, but I got the R chip, and then I took this R chip to the person who was in charge of the voting machines, and then she gave me a card, and then I went to my machine and I stuck that card in, and that brought up the Republican ballot. Obviously, if someone had a blue chip, they would have eventually gotten the Democratic ballot. So there were two different ballot sheets being used yesterday, and so that's what happened. And the king was very much hoping that Paul Mango would win the Republican primary to challenge Tom Wolf, the Democratic governor, socialist Democratic governor, Tom Wolf, in November. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
No.
Unfortunately, and we're bringing up the map now on the screen, I think, that Scott Wagner, with 99.38% of precincts reporting. I don't know who went to bed without reporting their precinct, but Scott Wagner got 323,443 votes statewide. That amounted to 44.28%.
Paul Mango got 269,569 votes statewide, and that was a 36.91%. And there you see the map of the different counties. There are 60, how many? 62 or 60, I think 60-something counties in Pennsylvania. And you see them in the white lines there. And you see that in northeast Pennsylvania, Mango won.
Yep. Well, interesting colors they chose there for the map. It's not so clear between Paul and Laura, is it?
Laura didn't win anything.
She didn't. So
none of those are Laura, yeah. None of those are Laura, because she did not win any county. Okay. So the colors represent the...
between Paul and
Scott. Yeah, Paul and Scott, yeah. And Mango, you see, did well in western Pennsylvania because he's from the Pittsburgh area. Mm-hmm. And so he did quite well.
He carried Pittsburgh.
Yes, he did. He carried Allegheny County, where Pittsburgh is located. And actually, he also carried Philadelphia County. If the tech team is able to put the cursor on Philadelphia County in the bottom right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the problem is that there are not many Republican voters in Philadelphia County. If you click on Philadelphia County, you see that Paul Mango got 5,900 votes to Scott Wagner's 5,600 votes. But there aren't many, Philadelphia is basically a Democratic city.
Right.
So there are not many Republican voters. So if you go, for example, to let's say Montgomery County, for example, that's next to Philadelphia there, Scott Wagner got 17,000 votes and Mango got 14,000 votes. So it's the suburbs of Philadelphia that have a lot more Republican voters, and that's where Wagner was strong. Here in northeast Pennsylvania, in Pike County, 1,100, Wagner 1,000. We don't have a lot of votes. We didn't have a lot of votes. We could have had, if we could have gotten the vote, if we could have gotten more Republican voters out to the polls, we could have had them. Mm-hmm. In the 4 counties here that Mango carried, there are more than 100,000 Republican voters. But here in Pike County, there were about 2,000 or so Republicans voted. In Wayne County, about 3,000, about 4,000 Republicans voted. In Lackawanna County, where we have the city of Scranton, about 8,000 Republican voters in total. And in Monroe County, 5,000, 6,000 maybe Republican voters. So, if we had a better organization here, get out the vote organization, we could have delivered a lot more votes, I think. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, though, we don't. And so although Mango won in northeast Pennsylvania, and I think that demonstrates the king's influence even in the external, not just in the internal, but also in the external area. But we won, and that demonstrates the king's influence in northeast Pennsylvania, but not enough votes were delivered to make a difference and to overcome Scott Wagner's influence in the central, especially in the central part of the state, especially anyway. That's what it is. So now, in order to defeat Tom Wolf in November, we'll be supporting Scott Wagner, I'm sure. Although I've not.
And Paul Mango immediately called Scott Wagner and pledged his support. To the key point now is to bring down Wolf. Because he's doing a lot of damage to the state, which translates down to the local level. Yes.
And he's raising taxes. He's, threatening our Second Amendment rights, and so forth. But the primary for governor was not the only election that was going on yesterday. Of course, there's also a lieutenant governor, where also Wagner's a favorite candidate for lieutenant governor won. But also there was a primary election for the 8th District congressman, and there John Shren won.
And if you can bring up that link now, John Schrin, where I was actually able to meet him yesterday. He came by to the polling place where I was handing out leaflets. I was handing out mango leaflets. I went there because the mango campaign asked me to go there to Hamlin. But once I was there, someone asked me to hand out Schrin pamphlets as well. So I was doing both. And he came by and delivered a pizza to us, and also a big case of water. A lot of water because it was pretty hot. This was before the rain. The rain came as he was there, and he left to go someplace else. But he was there for about an hour, encouraging us and talking with us, and also meeting people as they came in. And he won not statewide but district-wide. So his district is now the 8th district. That includes Scranton and Wilkes-Barre and Hazleton, and the rural areas of northeast Pennsylvania, including Pike County and Wayne County. And now he will be going up against an incumbent Democrat, Matthew Cartwright, and we want to defeat Matthew Cartwright. There was an article in in one paper. This is the Times Leader that points out that normally, if you look at how this district went in the presidential election 2 years ago, President Trump won by 10 points in this what is now the 8th congressional district. So normally you would think that it would be an easy job for John Schrin to defeat Matthew Cartwright this year, whether it's going to be a blue wave or red wave. If it's a blue wave, then maybe if the Democrats are very strong this year, maybe we'll have to fight really hard for John Schrin to win. But we hope that no matter what happens in the rest of the country or the rest of the state, we can at least win this congressional district for a Republican, John Schrin. Yes. And his name is Schrin.
Schrin.
Yes, his name is Schrin. I talked to his daughter yesterday. I asked her, how do you pronounce your name? And she told me, it's Schrin. She said, some people pronounce it Kren, but it's Schrin. Okay, so that is what is happening there. And, other people, of course, Lisa Baker and Mike Pfeiffer were running unopposed, and so they, of course, will be running for re-election in the fall. And by the way, John Schrin is someone who advertises the fact that he is a lifetime NRA member. Turns out that Joe Peters is also. He was, the other candidate. And I was talking to one of his supporters who was there handing out Joe Peters leaflets. And it turns out that, Peters, I guess, is also. But Peters doesn't mention that in his campaign literature. But on John Schrin's little card here on the back, it says lifetime NRA member.
That's what
so he
want.
puts that out.
Yep.
And I told him yesterday, I told him, I said, John, in this election, in my opinion, the most important issue is Second Amendment rights. And he said, yeah, we're gonna fight for that. And so we'll see what he does. Let's get him in there, and then we'll see what he does. But let's get him in there. The King hasn't endorsed any candidate for Congress yet, but I'm very much for John Schrin. I have been for John Schrin. I voted for him yesterday, and I plan to fight for him, along with Scott Wagner.
Yeah, the King was there. We were working, my wife and I were working the polling stations in Westfall Township, and the King came by and spent quite a bit of time. There was quite a lively energy there for Mango, and several local people there. My sense was a lot of people just didn't know Mango. mango did fairly well in our area, but I can see the rest of the state. It was probably difficult for him to get the word out and get his message out to all those small counties.
Well, the state Republican Party did endorse Wagner.
Yeah.
That was one thing. But also,
and I have to confess, a lot of times, if you don't know the candidates, you just go the Republican line.
Yeah.
You know, that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah. Now, it was unfortunate the state Republican Party chose to choose Wagner, and I think that shows that we need influence in the state Republican Party.
I'm going to join. My wife and I decided to join the Republican committee here in Westfall and Pike County area. They meet once a month on Tuesdays. So I think that's a small step in that direction. And get involved in your local parties, and then eventually you can have influence on a state level.
Yes. I forgot what was her name, Lois, who came on the King's Report to explain to us about, the workings of the state.
Right. Yeah.
Who? Kaneshige, that's right. Kaneshige, that's right. And she was encouraging us to get involved in the state Republican and local Republican politics, and she was pushing us to influence the state party not to endorse anyone, let the people speak. But that would have been, if we'd worked more in that area, I think that would have been better. That would have been more advantageous for Mango. So anyway, lessons learned. Lessons learned. Get the vote out. Get more influence in the state Republican Party, state Republican committee. I think those are lessons that we can carry forward
I think
to
that's
the next time.
one of the messages the King has really brought forth is the kingdom will be built locally.
Yes.
It's not going to be top down, and so it's had a big influence on me. I think I've been guilty my entire life thinking you can only work on the large levels to bring change. But actually, Cheonggyeolguk and the kingdom really starts on a grassroots kind of level. So it's been really exciting for me to go through that transformation, get involved in locally in different activities.
All right, so now we're all for Scott Wagner.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
We're all for
and
Scott
he's
Wagner.
a Second Amendment guy.
Yeah, he is. Well,
He's not as strong as Mango. He's not as conservative, but
all
still.
right, now we're comparing him to Wolf.
Right.
Yeah, we're comparing him. We're not comparing him to Mango anymore. We're comparing him to Wolf.
He's a very good candidate.
Yes, he's a very good candidate.
Yes.
He's our guy. He's our man.
We have to somehow get involved in his campaign now.
Yes.
And let him know that we're going to be holding his feet to the fire.
Yes.
In Second Amendment.
Well, first we're going to get him in there. Then we're going to hold his feet to the fire. Right now we're going to build him up. We're building him up. We're building him up. Yes, you're great. You're great. You're great. Until, what is it, November, I'm not sure what the date is, 6th or something like
7th,
that.
Something like that.
First part of November.
Yep.
The first Tuesday after the first Monday. Tuesday after the first Monday is what the
is.
Constitution says.
November 6th.
November 6th, that's what I thought. Okay, that's what I said. All right, until November 6th, we're going to build him up. And then once we get him in there, then we'll hold his feet to the fire. All right? But right now, we're going to make him win. All right? But also, here in Northeast Pennsylvania, but we need to work in other areas of the state as well. Both Wolf and Wagner are from the same county. They're both from York County. That's
interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if the tech team can find York County. It's
just south of.
It's down on the Maryland border.
Harrisburg area.
It's down on the Maryland border. It's about 4 counties over from Philadelphia, on the Maryland border. I don't know.
It's only a half hour from Harrisburg. Yeah. It's a pretty, it's right next to the state capital county.
Down on the Maryland border, and I don't know which of them are going to win York County, but we need to, the big cities, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, oftentimes Pennsylvania elections are decided there. So we'll need to figure out ways to get votes for Scott Wagner there as well, not just here in Northeast Pennsylvania. All right. So that was the election that took place yesterday. Moving forward.
Moving forward. Yeah.
Moving forward. Down with Wolf. Down with Wolf. Okay?
He's a predator.
And
Wolf
down
is
with
a
Cartwright.
predator.
Down with Cartwright. Down with Cartwright. Okay, let's take a short break now, and we'll get into North Korea.
Okay.
Okay? Yes.
Hi there, folks. And look at what I've got here today. My God, take a look at this. This is a BFR in 454 Casull with an octagonal barrel, magna porting, micarta grips. And look at that, it even has my initials on it, JM. Look at that thing of beauty, my God. Pop open the cartridge insertion door, and look at that cylinder spin. The finest revolvers in the world. Woo! That's a cannon. That's a cannon. Oh, man. Pretty accurate, though. Pretty much on target. Oh, boy. Massive repo.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Wednesday, May 16th, 2018. And let's go see what's happening with North Korea. All is not well. Let's see. North Korea's government says it is considering calling off a planned nuclear summit between dictator Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump. Kim's regime said through state-run news agency KCNA that ongoing Max Thunder joint military exercises between the United States and South Korea are actually a rehearsal for an invasion of the North. Well, this is what they say every time. This is their standard script that they pull out at every time that the U.S. and South Korea have a defensive military exercise. The United States will also have to undertake careful deliberations about the fate of the planned North Korea-U.S. summit in light of its provocative military ruckus jointly conducted with the South Korean authorities, KCNA said.
The White House made no immediate moves to slow down preparations for the summit on Tuesday. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders simply said, "We are aware of the South Korean media report. The United States will look at what North Korea has said independently and continue to coordinate closely with our allies." North Korea didn't just say that. There was another statement that North Korea made that I think is not here, but a foreign ministry official also said that Kim Dong-chul, Kim Ak-song, there's a foreign ministry official statement that came out yesterday, and see if I can find that someplace. But he says that U.S. is calling for unilateral denuclearization, and they complain about that. And this is actually very interesting because it finally shows that North Korea is finally helping us. It's not making a new claim. It's finally helping us understand what they have been saying all along, which is that they don't want to have any kind of a unilateral denuclearization. Here we go. Let's read this. This is Fox News story. Hours after North Korea announced it canceled a high-level summit with South Korea, a top official from the country on Wednesday threatened to abandon talks with the United States if the discussion is going to be a one-sided demand centered around giving up its nuclear arsenal. See, U.S. is talking about denuclearizing North Korea. Right. North Korea is talking about denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. And we need to understand the difference, that communist countries, communist parties, when you're talking with them, you need to understand that words, the same words, have different meanings, all right? So, for example, democracy has a different meaning to them as it does compared to what it has to us. Denuclearization has a different meaning. So you need to understand that we think we're talking the same language because we're both using words that are spelled the same.
Right.
But we're not. And Kim Gye-kwan, here he's a first vice foreign minister making this statement, but it's not his personal statement. It was a prepared statement put out by the government. It's helping us to understand that difference.
Yeah.
He's not mansplaining, but commie-splaining, I guess. he's commie-splaining to us, all right? Kim Gye-kwan, the North's first vice foreign minister, criticized comments from President Donald Trump's top security advisor, John Bolton, and other U.S. officials for citing the Libyan model for how the situation should be addressed. Libya gave up its nuclear program in the 2000s in exchange for sanction relief. And then North Korea says, yeah, and then what happened to them? They got bombed. They got bombed. The North has often cited Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's gruesome death in 2011 at the hands of rebel forces to justify its own nuclear program from what it considers threats from the U.S. Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un took power weeks after Gaddafi died. We will appropriately respond to the Trump administration if it approaches the North Korea-U.S. summit meeting with a truthful intent to improve relations, Kim said in a statement. He said that North Korea will no longer be interested in negotiations with the U.S. and will reconsider sitting down with Trump for the high-stakes foreign policy meeting if it, quote, will be all about driving us into a corner. Well, you betcha it's about driving you into a corner. What else do you think it was about? But you see, North Korea is not coming into this meeting waving a white flag.
Right.
All right? They're coming in saying, hey, we are now a nuclear nation. Right. We are a nuclear-powered nation, and we demand respect.
Right.
All right?
Right.
They're not going to quote Ephesians 5 or anything like that, but we want respect because we are a nuclear-powered country. Mm-hmm. And here, let's see if they mentioned that. He basically says, how dare you compare us to Libya, which was only in the initial stages of its nuclear development. Mm-hmm. We are not in the initial stages. We have got nuclear weapons, all right? Mm-hmm. We have got nuclear weapons. And we deserve respect. We want respect. Don't mushi us. Mm. The king has explained about mushi, right? And so, let's see. In addition to the nukes, the vice foreign minister also expressed his disapproval for comments the U.S. made about its desire for North Korea to relinquish its biological and chemical weapons. North Korea abruptly canceled its meeting with South Korea on Tuesday over its participation in joint military exercises with the U.S., with KCNA, North Korea's state media outlet, claiming the drills were preparations for a potential invasion of the country. South Korea's defense minister said the military exercises will continue despite North Korea's adamant disapproval. But actually, I read in the South Korean press just a little while ago that the South Korean Defense Ministry has banned B-52s from participating in those exercises, has notified the U.S. that they cannot deploy B-52s in the South Korean airspace.
During this exercise?
During this exercise, yes.
So they're moving in a dangerous direction.
State Department says, that's not all that Kim Jae-won said. He had some more colorful statements. Unfortunately, he was quoting Bolton and say, basically, how dare you, how dare you try to tell us to give up our chemical and biological weapons? Basically what this North Korea's first vice foreign minister is saying. How can you even mention that? So
the whole pretense of this meeting then between Trump and Kim is that the United States will withdraw its troops from South Korea eventually and become a nuclear-free peninsula.
So whether the withdrawal of U.S. troops has not been brought up yet.
Yeah.
But I see it as a natural consequence. Already the North and South Korea in their summit last month agreed in principle to get a peace agreement by the end of the year. And my point is that if you have a peace agreement, then that completely undermines the justification for deploying U.S. troops in South Korea.
Right.
Now, South Koreans tell me, no, China. The U.S. troops are here for China, not for North Korea. That's what they've been telling me for 20 years. But politically, strategically, that may be true. But politically, they've been justified by the North Korean threat. So once that threat is removed by a peace agreement, then there's no longer justification. But also, the United States, I think now that the troops on the ground, the U.S. 8th Army in South Korea now, may not be as much of an asset as it used to be, and may actually be a liability now for the United States because it is restricting the U.S.'s ability to attack North Korea militarily.
Because of all the military soldiers there.
Yeah, because basically they're hostages now.
Yeah.
So,
human shields.
Yeah, I think I gave the example before that if you have a terrorist in a bank who's got hostages in a bank, you want to get the hostages out before you send in the SWAT team, right? So I think Trump may want to withdraw U.S. forces from South Korea now to get the hostages out of the building, and then you attack, then you send in the SWAT team. You also have a couple 100,000 American citizens living in South Korea.
That's a little bit more complicated.
Well, if you take the troops out, I think a lot of them are going to see the writing on the wall and get out as well. I think once people look around and see that the U.S. troops are gone, they're going to say, "Hey, I think I got business elsewhere. I think I got business back in the U.S." I think they're going to see the writing on the wall because South Korea without U.S. troops, it's going to be a very naked feeling. Yeah. But and the U.S. may play that card. The U.S. may say, "Hey, you know what? We'll withdraw our troops if you give up your weapons." Now, North Korea will not give up its weapons.
Right.
But
even if they say they will.
Even if they say they will. Even if they say they did, they still will not.
But this exercise has been an important thing to kind of expose the hand of the North.
And I'm wondering, what is China doing in all this? For 7 years, Kim Jong-un tried to get an invitation to Beijing, and he could not. But all of a sudden this year, China has called him up on the carpet twice. He's all of a sudden very popular in China. One trip was to Beijing, another one was to Dalian. Was kind of a midway between Pyongyang and Beijing. But Xi Jinping met him there as well. So he's met Xi Jinping twice this year now. Finally, after 7 years, all of a sudden Xi Jinping's best friend. So what is Xi Jinping saying? When Trump accepted Kim Jong-un's invitation to have a meeting, Trump basically closed the door on China. China suddenly found itself shut out of the Korean Peninsula. And that's not good for them. They don't want that. So I think China is saying to North Korea, make this Singapore thing, make it go away. We don't want it to happen. Because if Kim Jong-un and Trump meet in Singapore, and if it's a relatively successful, meeting, or, if they at least both leave the room smiling, that's not good for China. Because now U.S. and North Korea are dealing directly with each other. Already back in the 90s, there was a point where U.S. and North Korea were actually talking about establishing embassies in each other's capital. And North Korea was actually looking for a spot in Washington, and U.S. was recruiting staff for an embassy in Pyongyang. So we may be approaching that point again. That was back in the early 90s. Mid-90s, I guess. Early mid-90s. We may be approaching that point again. And I'm pretty sure China does not want that. So I think China wants to, pressure North Korea to somehow get out of this Singapore meeting. And that may be why now North Korea is coming up with all sorts of excuses. Right. So you're having this military exercise. Well, haven't we been doing it for every year? And every year you'd say it's a invasion practice for invasion. But has that ever been true? But they canceled the North-South Summit using that as an excuse. So it's basically the same kabuki show over again. But I wonder whether that meeting is going to happen. And if it does, will Kim walk out, or will Trump beat him to it? Will he be the first to walk out? Stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. It's an exciting drama that's taking place.
Well, the good thing is that Trump is not a fool. I think he clearly understands that North Korea could be just playing this up as a way to denuclearize the South, and
Well, there are no nuclear weapons in the South.
Right.
There were. U.S. did deploy nuclear weapons there in the past, but those were all, and it's pretty widely accepted that those were all taken out of the South. There's been a discussion of reintroducing them into the South, actually on the part of the South. And the U.S. there are different types of nuclear weapons. There are not just strategic nuclear weapons, but also tactical nuclear weapons, such as nuclear landmines and such. But we'll see what happens with this. But also because apparently Moon Jae-in, the South Korean president, is coming to the U.S. next week, next Tuesday, I think they said. He's going to be meeting Trump. I'm not sure where he's going to be meeting him, but he's going to be meeting Trump. And the South Korean press says that he wants to have a phone call with Kim Jong-un over their hotline, their newly established hotline, by which Kim Jong-un, of course, gives instructions to Moon Jae-in, I think. He wants to have a call with Kim Jong-un over that hotline before he comes to the U.S. to get his instructions, his marching orders. Listen, North Korea won the competition on the North Korean Peninsula the moment that Moon Jae-in was elected the president. And basically, Moon Jae-in is kind of the messenger boy for Kim Jong-un now. It's a very unfortunate situation. But no matter which way the scenario goes, it looks like, I think, U.S. troops will be withdrawn within the fairly foreseeable future. 2-3 years, maybe 5 years. Yeah. Maybe less. And they just built a new base at South Korea's expense. Mostly at South Korea's expense. Yeah. All right. So that is the situation with North Korea. Let's see what else is on Drudge. Well, let's see here. There's a headline here. Pyongyang takes aim at Bolton. Let's see if they have the.
Yeah, they'll probably try to demonize Bolton.
Well, they will. Yeah, and they're already doing that. And Bolton is a pretty good actor for that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a Western demon that the communists can use, can demonize, Bolton is basically
he's the poster child.
He's the poster child. Yeah, he's yeah. And unbridled remarks. That's what they said. Yes. So here, this is a better story, telling us what North Korea is really saying. Warned on Wednesday that Pyongyang was not interested in talks that would pressure the rogue state to, quote, unilaterally give up its nuclear program, taking aim at unbridled remarks by John Bolton in a statement issued complete. So Mr. Kim took issue in particular with Mr. Bolton's references to the so-called Libya model of nuclear abandonment and his statements on complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization. But that's the whole point. Complete, verifiable, and irreversible. But North Korea has a problem with that. We don't want complete. We don't want verifiable. And what's this about irreversible? No, none of that. We want incomplete. We want unverifiable. We want reversible nuclearization. And one thing I really got a kick out of in the South Korean press is that they said, well, for denuclearization to be irreversible, you have to do something with the 1,500 scientists, nuclear scientists in North Korea. And I'm wondering, what are you going to do with them? You're going to massacre them all? No, they said, no. We have to give them other jobs.
Retraining. You can become a truck driver.
Truck driver. Let's think about this. At the end of World War II, there were a lot of Nazi scientists.
Right.
And what did the U.S. do with them?
Brought them in.
Brought them here.
Put them right to work.
Right to work, yes. At the end of the Soviet Union, there were a lot of nuclear scientists in the Soviet Union. What happened to them? Well, some of them went to North Korea. Yeah, and Iran. And basically, China, they spread out around the world, and it's because of them that we have this proliferation now of nuclear weapons around the world. So what are you going to do with the 1,500? And I don't know if they're all Korean. Maybe some of them are Russian, all right? So quite possibly some of them are Russian. I don't know what but anyway, the South Korean press is not talking about retraining or giving other jobs to these people so that.
Where do you go from there?
I don't know.
It's a pretty high level science position.
Yes, I don't think they're going to want to be truck drivers. Yeah. But they're saying, unless you do something with those 1,500 scientists in North Korea, it's not going to be irreversible. And there is a point to that.
Yeah.
There is a point to that. Yeah. I mean, talk about Iran right now. Iran is one reason that President Trump canceled that agreement is because Iran is in a position where it can restart its program at any, even if they follow the letter of the agreement, they can still restart it at a certain time.
Mm-hmm. And these things can be done quite covertly.
Yeah, quite covertly, yes. Especially in a mountainous country such as North Korea with a lot of tunneling technology. Yep. You can do things, quite covertly, as James Bond movies have shown us. So I am still pessimistic about what is going to happen on the Korean Peninsula. I think we're still headed towards war. The war was delayed. We were talking about war in, what was it, April, I think?
Yeah, end of April.
End of April. Well, we got by that and we're still alive. That's good. So maybe, now we're talking about June 12th as being the Singapore meeting.
Well, it's interesting. Since the Olympics, Trump really lost the moral high ground to attack the North.
Yeah.
So he has to, again, create the condition where it's okay to attack the North.
and that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
See, now right now, I think Pyongyang is trying to get that meeting canceled and put the blame on Washington,
Right.
so that they maintain kind of the, I don't know if I can use the word moral high ground in respect to North Korea, but sort of at least the strategic high ground.
The illusion, yeah.
The strategic high ground,
Right.
at least.
Yeah.
But Trump, though, I think wants to create the conditions where he can say to the world, I tried everything.
Right.
I even offered to withdraw American troops. He hasn't done that yet, but I think he will. I even offered to withdraw American troops. I gave them the whole peninsula wrapped in a bow, with a little bow on it and a flower on it. But they still refused. So
Right.
I have no option
choice.
left but the military option.
Right.
I think that's where he's going.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. But if this meeting gets canceled, this will drive a wedge further between South Korea, especially South Korean public opinion, and the United States. And there will be more political opposition in South Korea for the presence of U.S. troops.
Yeah, because they'll blame it on the military
Right.
exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, blame it, and also they'll just blame it on U.S. in general. They'll blame it on Trump and Bolton.
Yeah.
And so then there'll be more pressure from within South Korea to withdraw U.S. troops. There will be more reason in the United States for withdrawing U.S. troops. So I think, U.S. troops are going. They're going. You know, and the South Korean conservatives keep telling me, yes, but they're for China. That's your wishful thinking. That's your wishful thinking. You know.
Well,
You would
eventually
listen to-
that's true.
Well,
I mean,
strategically, it's true.
yeah.
But we're talking about politics here. We're talking about politics. You know, so these South Korean conservatives can get together with Kissinger and cry all they want, but those troops are, you know, and the U.S. can handle China from Okinawa, from Guam, and from from the U.S. mainland. It doesn't have to have troops in South Korea
Right.
to handle China. Now, as I say, the troops
Especially
in South
ground
Korea
troops.
are becoming more of a liability, especially ground troops with the U.S. 8th Army. You know, yeah. The U.S. 8th Army is not there for China. Yeah. I mean, they have all sorts of intelligence gathering, you know, sort of the communications and stuff like that. I know that they're spying on China there, but they can handle China outside of Korea. So yeah, I think so no matter what scenario plays out, U.S. troops are probably going to be withdrawn. It's just a matter of time. And then we'll have, once that happens, I think we'll have war. Okay. And then the other headline is Kim abandoning arsenal or hiding evidence. Well, he's not abandoning his arsenal, I can tell you that. You know, and they've been making this thing for the past week or so about how they're going to have a ceremony for tearing down or shutting down their nuclear facility. I mean, North Korea, you know, their ceremonies are us. They're great at ceremonies. You know, they'll go goose-stepping along, you know, and then for Clinton, they blew up a whole thingy there, a reactor, I think. Yeah, they blew up a whole reactor for him. Boom, you know, it was the pictures and everything. They blew it up. Yeah, they can blow things up. They're good at that. That was Clinton, but it didn't do any good. They just kept on going. They just kept on going, even with that. Okay, so let's see what else is on Drudge this morning. ABC to dial back Roseanne, political humor. Profane Kimmel unleashed. New strategy is resurrecting old crap. Yeah. Texan rewrites Hollywood script for Trump's America. Okay, we can. Not sure what that's about. Manhattan DA to stop prosecuting pot possession. Okay, Chunuk Constitution says that the federal government cannot outlaw intoxicating substances, but it can regulate them. Also, there was this situation, I think maybe past news, but the Supreme Court, maybe did the King cover this? Supreme Court in the U.S. said that sports gambling is okay.
No.
That the states have the option. Yeah, that was in the news yesterday morning.
Okay. We didn't cover much news yesterday.
Yeah, there was, and again, that's states' rights. That's good. But, you know, I was talking with people at the polling place yesterday, and there's a lot of concern about that. Because Tom Wolfe especially
I don't know if he likes to gamble personally, but he likes to bring gambling to Pennsylvania.
Because he likes the money.
Yeah, he likes the money.
He likes the tax money.
Yes, he likes the tax money. We'll see what happens. But a lot of concern about that, because gambling brings other things. The father gambled quite a lot. Well, actually, he did not gamble himself. Okay, since he cannot be, this is not actually kosher, but he would give money to other people to gamble with. If he were still on earth, we would not be mentioning this. But yeah, that's not, the secular law does not permit that. But he did not gamble himself, but he would, he was facilitating that, yes. But God is also a gambler. We can talk about that sometime. God gambled. God gambled with Adam and Eve. Hey, he gambled with Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
He gambled that they would do the right thing. And he's still gambling with us. Judge overturns California assisted death law. Hey, finally, a judge in California did something good. Yeah. Let's see. A suspended female teacher gunned down in driveway. Okay, probably some pretty strong suspects for that. Let's go down here. Twitter amps up censorship. Yeah, I'll bet. Facebook details policy for sex, terror, and hate. 1 billion fake accounts. CNN analyst deletes tweets showing Trump in crosshairs. When are these people going to stop promoting violence? Have conservatives put liberals in crosshairs like that? I can't think of an example.
Not like media outlets or anything like that. You've had obviously some, right-wing fanatical kind of groups that I'm sure did that, but not anybody with any kind of position in media.
Russia hypersonic weapon ready for war by 2020. Things are getting worse and worse, aren't they? Trump team ready to pressure Mueller at the probe's 1-year mark. Judge upholds authority to prosecute Manafort. And the Fed's investigating Cambridge Analytica. Rand Paul asks a CIA nominee if she knows of any spying on Trump. And Tom Wolfe, the famous author, is dead at 88. And how Tom Wolfe became Tom Wolfe. We have another Tom Wolfe.
That's right.
And it's a different Tom Wolfe. Migrant children to be sheltered on military bases. And Israel faces diplomatic fallout after dozens killed in Gaza. But especially Breitbart is pointing out that we cannot take the Hamas information at face value. All this thing about, death toll, 52 people died, whatever, this is all coming from Hamas. And there's no independent verification of this death toll happening.
It could be a huge false flag.
Yeah, it could be.
Or an exaggeration.
Just a lie,
Yeah, or an exaggeration.
Yeah. Exaggeration or lie.
Yeah. And then the media is feeding into this frenzy.
Right. Millions of Muslims prepare for start of fasting in Ramadan.
It's also a very violent time, isn't it?
It's uptick in terrorism because you get double points.
Yep.
And Spike Lee, Black Klansman, rocks Khan, 10-minute standing ovation, wanted the hate to be verbalized.
Yeah, he's a hate preacher.
He's a hate preacher, yes.
But he's not being blocked, Tim.
He's not being blocked.
Not being censored.
They gave him a 10-minute standing ovation from the liberal left.
And a lot of
Khan.
media attention.
Yes. Denounces USA built on genocide and slavery. Ecuador spent millions on Assange spying operation. Updates, Cosby sentencing scheduled for September. Crisis pours into Colombia across border bridge from, guess where? Venezuela.
Yeah.
Yes. Satellite data suggests China, Russia fudging their GDP. Well, fudging. Even the Chinese prime minister has acknowledged that their numbers are fake. They're not fudging. They're just making it out of whole cloth, as Reagan used to say. Listen.
They have no moral compass.
Yeah.
They're just making these numbers
They
up.
make it
Come
up.
on.
Whatever is
Fudging. It's not fudging.
self-serving, yeah.
Parkland shooter committed 58 school infractions with little follow-up. That's right. School sorry for most likely to bomb. Yearbook superlative. Yeah. Shock. Teacher accused of drowning raccoons with students during class. Crane operator working on Miami Bridge left deadly scene in his crane. That must be that the bridge that collapsed over the highway. Women sweep to victory in House primaries. Okay, more billionaires in the world than ever before. Well, that's not surprising. I mean, you know, inflation. Filling up gas costs an extra $4.4 billion in April. A record number of traveling for Memorial Day. You know, one thing that we were talking about at the polling station yesterday is that Pennsylvania has the highest gas tax in the country.
I know, it's ridiculous.
And it's not all used for gas. It's not all used for roads and bridges.
Right.
It's also used to support the state police, which is, you know, we want to support the state police. And what some people in Harrisburg are proposing is, okay, well, if you don't want the gas tax to support state police, then we got another plan. Areas that don't have their own police force will have to pay a certain amount per person to the state police to fund the state police. I think they were talking about, you know, starting in, they always start low, right?
Right.
$25,
Yeah.
something like that per person, which means, you know, raising our taxes. Which, you know, we might say okay to that if at the same time they were to lower the gas tax. But they're not talking about that. They're not talking about that. They want to keep the gas tax as it is and charge us extra for state police protection. Anyway, we got to get Scott Wagner. Got to get Scott Wagner in there. Cloud will store Pentagon's classified data and nuke secrets. What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
This is an interesting article.
Have you looked at it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There was another article related to that's already gone from Drudge, but it talked about China's basically hijacking the technology from Amazon, because the only way you can do business in China is if you share technology with a company that is certified by the Communist Party.
Yes.
So Amazon has done this. They've had these strategic partners within China to get access to 1.3 billion people, and in the process has shared all sorts of IP with this company. And now, of course, Amazon has a very tight relationship with the Pentagon.
And with the CIA.
And with the CIA. So all this highly classified information could more easily be hacked by Chinese companies. So it's a real security breach in the making.
Yes.
And that's what this article is about. And it is a big concern because Amazon basically sold its soul to the devil by going into China. And now, like every single American company, tech company that has gone into China has had its information compromised and its data and its technologies hijacked by these Chinese companies. And that's how China has advanced so rapidly in the last 30 years in the area of technology. Companies go in there, we want access. Well, there's a price to be paid for that access.
Yeah.
And now there's these, and this is a big concern, and that's why there's all these tech companies that are basically rising up and saying, no, the Pentagon should not be doing a one deal with Amazon. They should, the contract should be spread out over multiple companies rather than a monopoly.
Bezos.
Yeah, Bezos is...
Jeff Bezos. All right. And cows are testing track technology of the future. Indoor generation. Quarter of Americans spent all day inside.
That's an interesting one, huh?
Yeah.
That's a big turnaround.
Men in their 30s hit by impotence epidemic. Well, where are you carrying your cell phones?
Yep. That's good point.
Merkel's father overshadows wedding to Prince Harry. I think there was a poll in the UK that a lot of people in the UK are not so interested in this wedding.
Yeah.
And we're even less interested.
We can't understand the fascination that people have in the UK toward the...
Well, you know, we had the Kennedys. We had our royal family. The Kennedys were our royal family.
They constantly disappointed us, though.
Well,
with
so does the UK royal family. Yes, but you know, after the Kennedys, no new royal family has really emerged. And royal family in the sense of public adoration and so forth. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of the recreation of the royal family going on there.
Yes.
Which one is that? Prince with Kate? Is
which
that who
one?
you're talking about, Kate, with the 2 or 3 children they have now?
No, I'm talking about the Kennedys. The Kennedys.
Oh, the Kennedys.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be a resurgence happening in the UK under this. I can't remember. Is it Prince William?
No, Harry.
Harry, but there's
Yes.
the
See,
other
we can't
one.
even keep those princes
The
straight.
other one with the children coming out.
That's William.
William, yeah, Prince William and Kate.
Yeah.
And they have like
Kate Middleton.
Yeah, 2 or 3 adorable children.
Who we are supposed to refer to as the Duchess of something or other, I think. Anyway, Anyway,
we have to do more study on this.
Yes, we have to do more study. Anyway, I'm sorry, we're not interested. Sorry.
The false kingdoms.
Yes, false kingdoms. And as far as the king's opinion on the queen, we refer you to many other
past episodes.
Past episodes, yes. And the Queen biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody, a first trailer, producer Blast Studio for het washing.
What's that?
Het washing?
Maybe we don't want to know.
Maybe we don't want to know. Okay, while wife attacks PGA golfer after bad tournament. Bad day at the office.
Not bringing home the bacon there. So you lost again?
We have this mortgage.
You know, it's pretty rough. I used to golf a lot. And, you know, these golfers, there's a few of them that actually make it, you know, but most of them spend an enormous amount of money flying around these tournaments and they don't win anything. You know, hopefully they have sponsors, but if you don't have sponsors paying for your airfare and your dining, you're basically spending a lot of money. So that's probably what happened to this poor guy. You know, another bad tournament and no money in the bank. And say, why am I?
Shall we go ahead and look at this? You know, train wrecks are always interesting. I'm sorry, this doesn't have a whole lot to do with Tony Cook, but this is the Miami Herald, or we can tie it to Tony Cook somehow, I'm sure. Former U.S. Open champion, former U.S. Open champion, he's a former champion, Lucas Glover, missed the secondary cut. Not just this time. He doesn't play well in a major PGA tournament, according to the incident report. And since he had a bad day live on national television alongside the likes of Tiger Woods, Dustin Johnson, and Justin Rose, she allegedly went off on him when he got home. The fight degenerated into something physical, all of it in front of their 2 underage children and Lucas's mama. Such fights. Yeah, look at that. Look at her picture. She's a lion.
She's possessed.
Yeah, such fights, Lucas told deputies, aren't unusual, the report shows. He described how when he plays a bad round of golf, Krista proceeds to start an altercation with him and telling him how he's a loser and oh Lord, she used the P word. P.Y. How he needs to fire everyone and how he'd better win or her and her kids would leave him and he would never see the kids again, the report reads.
What a lovely wife.
Oh, man. Yeah, leave her, man. Dump her. Dump her. Get blessed. Yeah? Get blessed with somebody else.
She needs therapy.
Lucas allegedly told deputies he couldn't take it anymore. At the same time, he tried to dissuade deputies from arresting Krista and claimed there was no physical altercation. Deputies, however, noted in their reports that there were fresh lacerations on Lucas's right arm and multiple lacerations to both. He bumped into a door, all right? Come on. 62-year-old mother Hersey Glover's arms as well as blood on her clothes. Yeah, they all fell down the stairs. Come on, deputies. Neither Lucas nor his mom asked to be treated by paramedics. The 38-year-old golfer, best known for his 2009 win. It's been 9 years. Come on, you guys. We got to win something here. At the U.S. Open in 2011, Wells Fargo Open said the wife had been drinking all day, the report shows. Krista claims she was attacked by her mother-in-law during an argument with her husband. The report noted, however, she had no visible injuries. Well, she's been training in jiu-jitsu probably. And when Lucas's mother was interviewed, she told deputies she tried to stop the argument between husband and wife, but Krista turned against her and hit her repeatedly.
Lucas's injuries. All right. So, okay.
Yeah, this is not a good marriage.
Not a good marriage. So this is the kind of marriage that we want to avoid by studying love and respect.
And stay away from the drink.
Stay away from the drink.
Drinking really does
Yes.
not do, it really causes a huge amount of problems within marriage.
Yes.
That's why Father said, do not drink.
One of the many reasons, yes.
Yes.
All right, we're coming to close to the end of our program today. But today we talked about the primaries where Scott Wagner defeated the king-endorsed Paul Mango in the Republican primary, but Paul Mango, already forgetting his name, Paul Mango has a pledge to support for Scott Wagner, so we're all going to all be for Scott Wagner, so we can get rid of the socialist Tom Wolfe. He calls himself a Democrat, and actually, I'm saying the Democratic Party is part of the united front of the Communist Party now. And I explained some time back about how the Communist Party, it was when Antifa in the West Coast was talking about the united front. And the Communist Party always creates a united front. So they don't expect everyone to join the Communist Party. They always have a minority of the population, but they create a united front with other groups. And even in China, you have other political parties, all right? But they all take their orders from the Communist Party. And so I think the same is happening now in the United States, where Antifa actually said that they wanted to create the cultural revolution. They wanted to recreate the cultural revolution in the United States. And this, so the Maoist revolution, this is what they're doing. And the Democratic Party is a part of that united front now of the Communist Party. So Tom Wolfe has got to go. It's got to be defeated at the polling at the voting box on November 6th, and so for the next less than 6 months now, we're going to be fighting for Scott Wagner to defeat Tom Wolfe in November. And also we're going to be fighting for John Schrin to defeat Matt Cartwright in the 8th Congressional District race. Just nationwide, we'll be fighting for people who are in line with the Providence. Especially, we need to. Another important race here in Pennsylvania is the Senate race, where Bob Casey, a Democrat, is up for re-election. And yesterday, Lou Barletta was chosen by the Republicans to go up against him, and so we're going to be supporting Lou Barletta as well. We need to pick up that Senate seat. There's talk about a blue wave in November, but there's also talk about a red wave in November. Which will come true is up to our portion of responsibility, I would say, wouldn't you? Okay. Anything last words?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, we're good. All right, so then the King will be back at the King's Report tomorrow at 5 a.m. Please tune in then, 5 to 8 a.m. In the meantime, this is Tim Elder and Greg Knowles saying, God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.
How'd you?